Hello, everyone. I should blow that off. And welcome to Chapter 10, Developing New Products and Services. So in Chapter 10, Chapter 10. So I think Chapter 10 is kind of an interesting chapter because we kind of find the concept of newness inherently interesting. You know, we have the ordinary saying that variety is the spice of life, and new things kind of provide some variety. And so we're naturally curious about what's new and uh, what's coming up in the future. So one thing we know is that the concept of newness is a relation rather than an absolute concept. And so in order to understand the relationship of the newness of something, we have to understand the reference point that the newness is compared to. So the first little section in this chapter deals with some vocabulary that allows us to better understand what product features are changeable and the context within which product change occurs. And then we look at some different ways of classifying consumer and business goods. And with consumer goods, we have so-called convenience goods, shopping goods, specialty goods, and unsought goods. And then we have some different classifications of business goods as well. And then we look at the different senses of the term new. We can measure something's newness in relation to existing products. We can determine newness in a legal sense, and we can look at newness from both the producer's perspective and also from the consumer's perspective. And then we look at some of the factors that contribute to product failure, because not every new product that comes on the market survives. So we look at factors contributing to product failure. And then the final section of this chapter looks at this 7-step new product development process that large consumer product companies use when they're developing new products. Okay, so off we go to chapter 10. Clear that. Oops. Okay, so this first section looks at some of the vocabulary that we use that relate to either product features that can vary or can change, or we look at that relate to the context of product change. So the first concept, it's not actually on this slide. It's product item. Product item. So a product item is a specific product of a unique brand, of a unique size, and unique price. And a product item has its own individual so-called SKU. An SKU is an inventory term, and it stands for stock keeping unit. So if we're a retailer and we have products in inventory, and we're using a computerized inventory system, the different products have SKUs, you know, pizzas of a certain size, milk of a certain size, a loaf of bread, type of bread. They each have their own SKUs. Okay, and so when we talk about a product line, we mean a set of closely related products, and the products might satisfy a class of needs. So bread products, you know, white bread, brown bread, whole wheat bread, they're all part of a product line. Or they're used together, or they're sold to the same customers, or they're distributed through the same outlets, or they fall within a given price range. And so we can kind of see product lines with bread products. You know, you've got bread, you've got buns, you've got bagels, you've got wraps. They're all kind of bread products. They're all kind of part of the same product line. They all satisfy hunger. They're all bought by the same kind of customers, people looking for material for their lunch. Okay, and then we have a product mix, and product mix is simply a set of product lines. So we go to the food store, they have bread products, that's one product line. They have milk products, they have cheese products, they have egg products, they have vegetable products, they have fruit products, they have canned good products, they have cereal, and so on. So grocery stores tend to have many product lines. And likewise, if we think about Canadian Tire has different product lines as well. They have sporting goods, they have automotive related products or automotive services. Those are two distinct product lines. They have household goods. Anyway, so Canadian Tire has a smaller product mix than a typical food department store. Okay, so we can classify products in two different ways. We can classify by type of user, so we have consumer goods and we have business goods that we'll look at more in a minute here. And then another way of classifying products is by degree of tangibility. So we have non-durable goods, so most food products are non-durable because we consume them quite quickly. Durable goods, so goods that last a period of time, so clothing, furniture, vehicles, houses. And then we have services, which are intangible. They're activities rather than goods. Okay. So we look at next. We look at the different ways of classifying consumer goods. Okay, so we can classify consumer goods into four different classes, into four different general types, on the basis of the amount of effort the consumer puts into the purchase decision, based on the frequency of purchase, and then also based on some of the marketing mix features, product, price, promotion, and place. Okay, so there's a little chart in the book, there's a little chart on the slide here that kind of summarizes these four classes of consumer goods. So we have convenience goods. So convenience goods are purchased relatively frequently, and we don't spend very much time in making the purchase decision. And they tend to be inexpensive goods. So convenience goods are staple kind of products. So it's like food products that we buy on a regular basis. So milk, cheese, eggs, cereal, stuff you buy on a kind of a regular basis, or it's gas for your vehicle, you buy it on a regular basis. Then we have so-called shopping products. So shopping products we buy less frequently than convenience goods, and we do more comparison in the decision-making process, and they're relatively more expensive than convenience goods. So I think some good examples of shopping goods are things like clothing and your smartphone, because when we look for these things, we spend more time and we look at the style, the quality, the price, and we're starting to become more and more conscious of the brand. When we purchase convenience goods, we accept lots of different substitutes for convenience goods. When you're buying gasoline, sometimes we're loyal, but sometimes we're not to our local gas station. Okay, and then we have specialty products. So specialty products are goods that we purchase infrequently, and we spend a lot of time in finding the product that we want and in making our decision. And they tend to be very expensive. So I think some good examples of specialty goods would be vehicles. We don't buy new vehicles very frequently. Jewelry, houses. When you buy a house, you're not just buying a house. You're often also buying the neighborhood. And so when you're buying expensive products like that, we spend a lot of time. I mean, when you're buying a house, you want to live in a certain neighborhood for its proximity to schools or to the hospital or to the highway or to your friends, to a neighborhood that you like, to the view and whatnot. We tend to spend a lot of time in making up decisions in these expensive products. And then the final classification of consumer goods are these so-called unsought products. So these are products that we tend to not even know that they exist until we need them. And if you have a vehicle and your vehicle breaks down, sometimes we discover that our vehicle had parts that we didn't even know about. And it's only because the vehicle's broken down that we realize that we need an alternator, or we need a new fuse or something. So the things that we don't purchase very often Uh, and they can be it can be in any price. I mean, vehicle parts can be anywhere from cheap to expensive, so on. Yeah, likewise with the cell phone batteries. You know, your cell phone battery dies every 3 years or so, you go shopping for it when you realize that you need it, when your phone doesn't work anymore. Okay. So next we look at the classification of business goods or industrial goods. Okay, so we recall way back from yeah, I think it's chapter one. The distinguishing feature about business goods or industrial goods is that the the industrial buyer's demand for them is a derived demand. Derived demand. So the retail store that I buy my snow tires from, um, Canadian Tire buys the snow tires because it's forecasting that its customers want to buy snow tires. So Canadian Tire buys snow tires because it figures its customers want to buy snow tires. If Canadian Tire figures we're not going to buy any snow tires this year because it's not going to snow, then Canadian Tire is not going to buy any snow tires. If there's no end consumer demand there, if there's no household demand, then the industrial firm is not going to have any demand from the tire manufacturers. Okay, so we have two general classifications of business goods. We have production goods. So production goods are demand for materials that make it into the final product. So the tire manufacturer buys rubber and buys steel that goes into the tire, and so the rubber and the steel are production goods to the tire manufacturer. And then we also have support goods, and we have some subcategories of support goods. So support goods are used. They're not consumed in the product the way production goods are, but they are used. They're kind of like a catalyst. They're kind of used in the for producing the consumer goods through the production process. And so we have four classes of these so-called support goods. Well, first is installations. So installations are things like buildings and machinery. So building and fixtures. And usually, you know, if you're buying a building, if you're buying an industrial building, if you're a company and you're wanting to expand your factory, you'll usually put that kind of contract out to tender in a competitive process. And the buyer deals directly with the construction company or the equipment manufacturers. And then we have accessory equipment. So accessory equipment are minor pieces of equipment and tools. So in any business, you always have some office equipment. So you have desks, you have computers, you have photocopiers, and you have lots of tools and equipment. So usually when you buy these kinds of products, you buy them in small quantities, small lots, and we tend to deal with distributors rather than the manufacturer. So the same distributor deals with many similar type industrial buyers. So with installations, we deal directly with the manufacturer. With accessory equipment, we deal with distributors rather than the manufacturer. And then there's always supplies. You know, in any operation, you're going to have office supplies, paper, ink, toner cartridges, and then in the manufacturing process, you might have oil, you might have gaskets, you might have packaging material, parts to maintain equipment. And so supplies are kind of like convenience goods for shoppers. Supplies are usually a very small part of the entire product value. And so we don't spend a lot of time thinking about the supplies we buy. We just find a regular supplier and purchase them on an ongoing basis. So we spend very little effort in making that decision. And then finally, we have services that we buy. There's all sorts of different services, repair and maintenance services. Sometimes those repairs and maintenance are performed in-house, and sometimes you hire a contractor to do that. You might have legal advice, you might have accounting advice, and usually with services, when you're buying services, the buyer is concerned with the vendor's reputation. Okay, so the next little section deals with these different concepts, or different concepts of new. And we have forgot to move on here. We have four different types of newness, four senses of newness. We have newness in relation to existing products, we have newness in the legal sense, and then we have newness from the company's perspective, and then newness from the consumer's perspective. So when we look at newness in relation to existing products, a product can be new anywhere from the invention of a new product class associated with a new type of industry, or simply new features to an existing product. So a couple of examples of new products, new types of products, I should say. I think a new type of product that we've seen recently, they're not available in the market quite today, but we have self-driving vehicles. So I've posted a little, oh geez. Okay, so I've posted a little video. I've posted a little video in Moodle about self-driving vehicles, but I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that in a minute. The one I was intending to mention here, besides self-driving vehicles, is space tourism. So it's a new industry, and to date there have been very few space tours because it's very expensive to hitch a ride on a rocket going into outer space. But there's a number of companies that are trying to get into the space tourism business. They're developing new jets and rockets that can go to the edge of outer space, so we can experience weightlessness, and we can see the Earth in front of us. And one of these companies that's getting into this market is Virgin. So it's the Richard Branson outfit, and I've posted a little video in Moodle that shows some of the rocket ships, or jet rockets, I don't know what they're called, that Virgin is testing for this space tourism. If I recall correctly, Virgin Galactic is going to charge about $250,000 per flight. And I don't know what you do. You go up in the jet, you fly around the world once, and then you come back, and it costs you $250,000. But this is a new kind of product because we don't have space tourism today. But this could be coming shortly. Okay, and then oops. Okay, so we have, so the book also makes mention of the term feature bloat. And so feature bloat means when a product has too many features, then it end up confusing the consumer. So there's lots of examples of feature bloat. Many computer programs have many features. If you're familiar with the Microsoft suite of products, Excel, Word, so on, they tend to have very many features, and we only use about 5% of the features. But so many of those software products suffer from feature bloat. And for those of you who remember math class last year, we had a calculator with many buttons and many different ways of using the functions. Calculators also suffer from feature bloat sometimes. And television remote control devices, they tend to have lots of those features on them. I mean, I learned about 3 of them and forget about the rest. Smartphones also have many apps on them sometimes. And so we might say that they suffer from feature bloat as well. Okay, so the second sense of newness is newness in the legal sense. And in Canada, a company can market a product as new only for a 12-month period. And then we have newness from the company's perspective. So when we speak about newness from the company's perspective, from the manufacturer's perspective, it may mean that there's simply a product line extension. So the company, instead of having 3 types of vehicles it sells, it comes out with a 4th type. General Motors comes out with a new concept kind of vehicle. That's a product line extension. So a good example of a company with a product line extension that we've seen very recently that I know you're all familiar with is Apple getting into the smartwatch field. They were not the first people in the smartwatch field, but smartwatches have been on the market for a couple years now. So the Apple Watch, Apple traditionally had other consumer product devices, iPads, iPhones, Mac computers, and so on. And now they've added a new product line, these wearable computers, and then of course the other major operating system, Android, also has watches, wearable computers based on that operating system. Okay, and then we have newness. The fourth concept of newness is new in relation to the consumer's perspective. Oops. In relation to the consumer's perspective. Oops. Okay, so when we speak about newness in relation to the consumer perspective, we can classify the types of newness based on the amount of learning that the consumer needs to acquire to be able to use the new product. And so I have to admit these names are kind of complex to remember, but it's all based on amounts of learning. So it's all based on amounts of learning required to use the product. So we have so-called continuous innovation products, and they require no new learning. And there's no end of examples here. I think one of the examples from the book is a toothpaste company comes out with a new flavor of toothpaste, or a soap company comes out with the latest and greatest brand of detergent, or you go to the food store and geez, your favorite brand of yogurt is there, but now they've got a bigger size container. Well, bigger size container, that's a new product for the manufacturer. It's new to you, but it requires no new learning in order to be able to use that product. So it's called continuous innovation. And then at the other extreme, we have lots of new learning required, and those kinds of products are called discontinuous innovation. And then of course we have the middle of the road, middle amount of learning. So a couple examples on products that have only a minimal amount of learning required in order to use them. One example in the book is that ketchup that has the opening on the bottom of the container, then on the top of the container. So that's requires a minor amount of learning to be able to use that product. And I think another example of a dynamically continuous innovative product would be e-cigarettes. So you have a little bit of learning required to use e-cigarettes because you don't have to light them, so and you have to recharge the battery, and you have to put in the little capsules of liquid, but you still have to puff them. So the pit puffing is same as a regular cigarette, but the recharging of the battery and refilling the little reservoir with your stuff requires a little bit of extra learning. And then some examples of products that require lots of new learning. I think the book tells us that the Amazon Kindle is one of these products, but I have to admit, I have an Amazon Kindle, and I have to admit, it's pretty idiot-proof. But anyways, so a couple of additional examples of products that require lots of additional learning, although learning doesn't necessarily mean hard. I think one good example, a good recent example of a high learning product are these recreational drones that are taking over the world. I think I saw something like there was a million of these drones were sold in the United States over last Christmas. And so if you want to play around with one of these drones, you're going to have to learn how to work it on your console or your smartphone. Another product, a recent product that's, again, it's not quite on the market today, but we expect it to be on the market within a year or so, are these self-driving vehicles, self-driving vehicle. So in Moodle, I've posted a little video from Google about their self-driving cars. It's only a 2-minute video. Anyways, if self-driving car, there's no steering wheel, so you don't steer it. It steers itself. I mean, I guess you program in your destination, and it just takes you there. So that's a different type of skill required than driving a conventional vehicle. Okay, and then we also have the concept of newness that applies to services as opposed to products. Oops. And the book points out that there are 3 different ways that services differ from goods. I should say goods instead of products. There's 3 different ways that services are different from goods. And one of the ways is in many services are labor intensive. And that means that the service provider is part of the customer experience. You know, yesterday I went to the dentist. I had a filling fall out, so I had to get my filling glued back in. And so the dentist is there. I mean, it's not like I can have this service done on my mouth without the dentist being there. The dentist is part of the customer experience. And of course, we strike up a little bit of a conversation with each other and get through the process. Okay, then another aspect of services is that the delivery of services is often decentralized, and that means that the consumer has to be present in order to consume the service. That's not always true. So, for example, if you have a car wash and you want your car washed through the car wash, you, the consumer, don't have to be there. You could hire someone else to put your car through the car wash, and then they could buy the car wash for you. But for some services, the consumer does have to be there. And so good examples are going to the dentist, for example, getting your hair cut. You have to be there for those kind of services. And then another distinguishing feature of services that makes them different than goods is that because services are intangible, there's no place to attach the company's brand label to. So when I go to the dentist, you know, there's no dental brand. The dentist doesn't put a brand on my tooth or on my filling. So that's different. The fact that there's that absence of a physical product to attach a name or a brand distinguishes services from products. Okay, so the book goes through a list of 6 different types of new services. 6? Or was it 7? Oh, 7. Sorry, 7. I can't count. 7. So-called major service innovations, major process innovations, and some of these are a little bit hard to distinguish. Service line extensions, process line extensions, supplementary service innovations, basic service improvements, and style changes. So I have some examples of these. So major service innovations are services that require an extensive degree of consumer learning to use this new service. And so these are services that did not previously exist, and then they come on the market. And 2 examples from the book. The book mentions FedEx. A number of years ago, Federal Express came out with this overnight service. An overnight delivery service, and that was kind of a new kind of product in the market. And then another example from the book is eBay. I mean, eBay I know has been around for a few years now, but before eBay came along, there were not large-scale garage sales on the internet or large-scale auction-based yard sales on the internet, and so eBay's service was a new service. I think some other more recent examples of major service innovations that we've seen in recent years are services from the so-called sharing economy. So I'm sure you're familiar with the term sharing economy. If not, well, maybe we'll get around to it in economics class. But we have companies like Airbnb and Uber. So Airbnb, it's kind of like the hotel industry, except instead of hotels renting out rooms, it's simply people renting out rooms to other people that want to spend the night in their community. And so Airbnb is kind of a software service that connects homeowners that have surplus rooms with tourists that want to rent rooms. And this is a major a service innovation in recent years. And likewise, Uber, Uber's kind of this ride sharing company. The Uber vehicles, they're not taxis. The vehicles are not owned by a taxi company, but it's kind of like a taxi company, except all the vehicles are independently owned. And Uber simply provides the connection between the person that wants to rent their vehicle out and drive people around and people looking for rides. And so certainly the sharing economy, Airbnb, or sometimes called the peer-to-peer economy, these are major service innovations. Okay, so we have on that last list. I'm not going to crank back there quite yet. On that last list, the next type of new service is a major process innovation, and I have to admit, it's a little bit hard to distinguish between process and service, but I think a good example of a modern major process innovation. Again, we don't see it extensively today, but we do anticipate that within a few years we'll see it more frequently. And this does exist in some parts of the world. It just doesn't exist in Canada, and it doesn't exist in the United States today, but cross your fingers, it'll probably come. Is deliveries by drones. And so I've posted a little video. This is a commercial for Amazon's Prime Air. So Prime Air is their drone delivery service. They don't have approval to use this in the United States today, but they're still testing it. But I think delivery through drones would be considered a major process innovation because it's a way of delivering an existing service, but with greater value to the customer. So if you buy something from Amazon, instead of waiting for it to come in the mail, if you live in a big city near an Amazon warehouse, you can probably get delivery within a couple of hours after placing your product order. So I think this would be a good example of a major process innovation. Okay, then the next one on our list here, I'm not going to go back to the main slides because I've got the examples, next examples just up here. It's a service line extension. So it's providing an existing service to related products. And I'm on a bit of an Amazon kick right now. So if you follow Amazon, we all know that you can buy ebooks and regular books and all sorts of stuff through Amazon, and you buy it online and they deliver it to you. But Amazon, in a couple of recent years, has also gotten into the fresh food business. So they're trying to put even your local grocery store out of business. If you live in a big city in the States or in England, you can order fresh food from Amazon, and they'll have I believe it's same day delivery. Okay, next day delivery or early morning delivery. Okay, and it's fresh food. It's not just canned food. So they have milk and electronics. Well, I guess that's not really food, but anyways, it seems to me that Amazon getting into the food delivery business, they're kind of extending their online shopping experience from books and music and clothing into food. I think that would be a service line extension. Okay, then the book, let's just go back to the book here, mentions process line extension. So it's a new way of offering existing products. And example from the book is self-checkout at grocery stores. Anyways, self-checkout at grocery stores. Okay, then supplementary service innovation. So it's adding some kind of new features to an existing service. The example from the book is online vendors adding a shipping tracking feature to to their sales. But it seems to me that maybe it seems to me that maybe paying for products, instead of paying for products with a credit card or a debit card, but paying for products with your smartphone, having your smartphone either carrying electronic cash or having your smartphone linked to your bank account, paying for products with your smartphone, I think would be considered a supplementary service innovation, because it's simply providing a new way of buying or new way of paying for products. Apple Pay is not, I don't even know if Apple Pay is in Canada yet. I think it might be in Canada. But there's lots of these companies trying to get electronic payment systems going, and I suspect one of these years, once the banks get into the picture, they'll figure out how to roll it out. Okay, and then we can have some basic service improvements. So hey, ship a little bit faster, cut my haircut faster, kind of stuff. And then we have some style changes, which are just minor modifications to a service. And so the example from the book is, at McDonald's, they changed the uniform, so they changed the little speech the salesperson gives you when you go to buy your stuff. Okay, so the next little section looks at why products fail. New products have a very high failure rate in the market. New products have a very high failure rate, and it takes many tries at new products to find a winner. And I think the ratio is something like 3,000 to 1. For every one successful new product in the market, there have been 3,000 other ones that have failed, or there's been 2,999 that failed to find that one winner. So the question is, why do new products fail in the marketplace? And the authors say that the single most important reason is the product lacking a so-called point of difference. If the consumer can't see anything special about the product, then consumers aren't going to want to buy that product, and they'll either stick with what they're using or they'll just avoid the product altogether. So for a product to succeed, it has to have a so-called point of difference. It has to be superior to competing products enough for consumers to want to buy it. And then a second most common reason why new products fail in the marketplace is the product not having the purpose of the product not being clearly defined. So this is protocol. So a protocol statement is a statement that kind of just specifies what the new product is supposed to provide, what benefits the consumers are supposed to receive, and what the target market is for the particular product. And so if the product is designed from day one with those things in mind, then there's a better chance of the product being successful in the marketplace rather than not having a clear understanding of who the target market is, what the customer needs are that satisfies, and what product functions the product delivers. If we're not clear about those things, then new products are more likely to fail. So another reason that, another marketing related reason why your new products fail is that maybe the target market is too small. Yes, we've got a good product. So imagine we're in the pharmaceutical market and there's an orphan disease that, yes, drug company has a medicine that can serve this market, but if there's only 6 people in the world that have that disease, even though the product can help them, if those 6 people can't afford the product because there's only 6 people with the disease, the drug company is probably not going to get into that field because the market is simply too small. Okay, then another reason a new product fails that the vendor, the marketer, has botched the marketing mix. So the marketing mix is the 4 Ps. So product, price, promotion, and place. So if the marketer kind of botches, yes, you got a good product, yes, you got a good price, but hey, you're selling it in the wrong location, you're not going to get enough buyers. Okay, then another reason why new products fails because the product quality is too poor, or it may just be a bad timing. You're too early to the market, um, and there's people don't perceive any demand for it. I have a feeling that maybe this is what's going to happen with the smartwatches. Like Apple's smartwatch has not set the world on fire. And I have a feeling they might just be a little bit early. Maybe the technology's not fully developed for these smartwatches yet. Maybe come back in a few years, and once they kind of build in the right features, maybe be able to become more popular. Okay, then the final marketing reason why new products fail is because although there may be a market there, it may not be economical for the producer to access the buyers. And so a couple of examples of this is you've got a good product, but the retailers don't want it. The retailers say, no, thank you. Even the retailers say, no, thank you. Or the retailers, they don't have enough shelf space to cram one more brand of cereal on the shelf. Or it may be that you've got another economical reason why products fails. Maybe you've got a good product, people want it, but the manufacturer is too small. The manufacturer doesn't have the productive capacity to produce the volume that the buyer wants. And this is not uncommon. If you want to sell to big stores like big food companies or big food distributors like Loblaws and Sobeys and Save-On Foods, or you want to sell to the big department stores like Sears and Canadian Tire and Walmart, if you want to sell into Walmart, you probably have to have the capacity, to produce, 100,000 units per week to sell to Walmart, and they won't sign you up as a vendor to them unless you can commit to producing these large volumes. And lots of small companies, you may have a great product, you may have a great idea, but you're just getting started, and you don't have the production capacity to handle an order from Walmart today. Like I've heard of this in in the chocolate bar field. Someone comes up with a great new healthy chocolate bar. Can't remember the company off the top of my head. They had a great new chocolate bar. And Walmart wants to buy 1,000,000 of them, like next week. Well, they don't have the productive capacity. Can't take on the Walmarts today. Maybe tomorrow, but not today. Okay, so we just looked at some. So these are marketing reasons why new products fail, and then there's some other organizational related reasons why products can fail as well. Okay, so here's a list of 5 organization-related problems that can contribute to product failure. So the first reason is not listening to the consumer. So the company thinks they have a great idea, and the managers think they know what consumers want, but the consumers don't actually want the product. And I think we've seen a pretty good example of this very recently that you're probably familiar with. You recall that over the last couple of years, Google came out with their Google Glass, this wearable computer that people wore kind of like a pair of glasses. And it turns out that this is a major flop. This article was written back in 2014, just before Google was going to put this product in the market. And it turns out Google did put the product in the market, and it was a mammoth flop. They cost $1,500 a piece, and people didn't buy them. Why? Because people didn't want them. People didn't want them. Google has yet to make a convincing case that a wearable heads-up display is a necessity rather than a novelty. So people kind of understand that one of the next phases in the high-tech industry is wearable computers. So every big company believes it needs to move into wearables as the next big thing. No company has effectively defined the utility of devices like smartwatches, heads-up displays for the general consumer use. Because the need for a device like the Google Glass has not been well articulated, its use can come across often as gratuitously conspicuous consumption. And that means Google was really trying to sell these Google glasses on the basis of being status symbols. You could buy these things for $1,500 a piece and look like an idiot walking down the street. But consumers didn't tell Google that they wanted these wearable computers. Consumers did not tell Google that they want to wear a smartphone on their face. Google said, hey, we think that people want to wear smartphones on their face. And when they tried to bring the product to market, it failed. I know Google's still working on the product, and they hope to come back in a few years with a more user-friendly version, maybe in the industrial field. But I think the reason the product failed is because consumers didn't say that they actually wanted it. Okay, so another reason for product failure related to organizations. So instead of the company thinking they're smarter than consumers, oops. Oh, I don't have all these in the right order. Okay, so sorry, I don't have them in the same order. So the second reason why, a second organization-related reason why new products can fail is because sometimes companies push products on the market in order to generate near-term sales. Many public companies operate their businesses on kind of a quarter-to-quarter basis, every 3 months to every 3 months, because they have to release their financial statements to stock market investors every 3 months. And so if they're trying to increase their sales, increase their stock price in the near term, they might try to push products on the market just to kind of boost sales in the short term. So a couple years ago, you probably don't remember this, maybe. A few years ago, Pepsi, although it's a soft drink company, it also has a very large salty snack division. Frito-Lay's is a Pepsi subsidiary. And a few years ago, Pepsi bought a company called Sun Chips. And Sun Chips figured that they could take advantage, or they figured there was a niche in the green, environmentally friendly green market. And so they came up with a bag for their corn chips, or Sun Chips, whatever they are, that was 100% biodegradable. So Pepsi thought, geez, we've got a real winner here. We're going to sell this junk food in these biodegradable bags. And all the greenies, all the tree huggers, will buy these chips because we have biodegradable bags. Turns out that this product was a complete flop because this bag was too noisy. Because it's made of compostable material, somehow it's just noisier. When you crinkle the bag, it was noisier than a regular chip bag. And the people liked the chips, they just couldn't stand the noise. And so Sun Chip, which is owned by Pepsi, pulled the product. They simply, subsequently, they replaced the product with a biodegradable but less noisy bag. But anyways, Pepsi was trying to rush a product to market to take advantage of the environmentally friendly consumers out there, and it failed at the time. Okay, then another reason products can fail due to organization-related reasons as opposed to marketing reasons is that employees can suffer from quote-unquote groupthink. So groupthink is when all the members of a committee start thinking the same way. And when you're a member of a group or a member of a team, there's dynamics there, and people want to be loyal to the team. But if you suspend your critical thinking when you're a team member, if you suspend your critical thinking and you're showing too much loyalty, then you're probably not going to be expressing your best ideas. And people can kind of glom onto these dumb product ideas, maybe something like the Google Glass. Like maybe the Google Glass the idea came from the president or something. So everyone figures that the president's smart, and so all the employees have to rally around the Google Glass, but they forgot to check with the market to see if people actually wanted it. So this groupthink, I mean, it's kind of a modern term for what I would say is the Emperor's New Clothes syndrome. And you'll remember that fairy tale about the Emperor's New Clothes. People were afraid to say what they saw, that the Emperor didn't have any clothes. So groupthink is the same kind of thing, but in the marketing field. Okay, and then another way that new products can fail due to organizational-based reasons as opposed to marketing reasons is not learning from past failures. And this is kind of a modern version of another saying. The saying goes, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So if you don't learn from history, you're probably going to repeat the same mistakes of the past. So the same kind of principle applies in the field of marketing as it does in regular life. Okay, and then the final reason that new products can fail is due to not following this new product development process that we're going to look at next. I just need to make a little thing here. Okay, so final little section of this chapter is this 7-stage new product development process that large consumer products companies use when they're developing new products. So we have 7 steps in this process, and we're going to walk through these 7 steps. So the first step in this process is coming up with a strategy for the new product. And then once you kind of define what the strategy is, once you define the kind of innovation that you're looking for, then you engage in the idea generation stage. And then after you've come up with a bunch of ideas for a new product, then you screen the ideas and you evaluate them. And then so you shortlist them. This is another way of saying the same thing. You shortlist them. And then once you shortlist them down to a manageable number, then you conduct a business analysis on them to see if there's actually you can verify the market for the product. And if your new product idea passes that stage, then you develop some prototypes for your product to see if it's even feasible to manufacture it economically. And then once you develop some prototypes, then you engage in test marketing. So you actually roll the product out to actual consumers to see if they actually are interested in buying it. And if your product passes that stage, then you commercialize the production of the product. So we're just going to walk through these 7 steps over the balance of this chapter. Oops. Okay, so the new product strategy development stage. So it's a way for companies to impose some structure on the new product development process. So at the new product development strategy stage, the company might say, hey, we're looking for simply an incremental improvement. You know, we've already got our menu set. We just want to tweak it a little bit. Or they might say, hey, we're looking for some kind of revolutionary new product. Yes, we're a pizza restaurant, we're an Italian restaurant, but now we want to get into some new food line altogether. So it would be a new product rather than simply an incremental improvement to an existing product. And so how might companies define what kind of product they're looking for? So they might make use of so-called cross-functional teams. So in an organization, you've got many different departments. You got marketing, you got manufacturing, you got finance, you have operations, you have HR. And so maybe if you're trying to come up with new product ideas, you'll form a committee with representatives from each of these different departments in the company. So it's a cross-functional team that'll develop the product. You might try to come up with a new product idea using this Sigma 6 process. So Sigma 6 is a manufacturing process to manufacture products of very high quality. So once you come up with the product idea, you identify the key variables in the production process, and then you find ways to measure those variables during the production process, and then you set error tolerances at those key steps, and then you monitor the production process to make sure that your production stays within that specified margin of error. Sigma means a standard deviation. Sigma is the Greek letter. Geez, you know, I'm not a stats person. There's a letter of the Greek alphabet that's used to represent standard deviation. It's called sigma. I think it looks kind of like that. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. Okay, so another way we can help the company can help define what kind of product it is looking to develop is to consult with these so-called lead users. So these are we haven't quite come to it yet, but we have the product life cycle, and in the product life cycle, we have consumers that adopt the use of a new product at different stages of the product life cycle, and the lead users are these so-called early adopters. So if the company can find these early adopters for new products, then maybe the way the company finds the parameters for the new products it wants to develop is to talk to these lead users and just say, hey, what kind of product features do you think our products need, or what kind of products do you think you need that maybe we can provide? So the early feedback from these lead users can help the company define what kind of product it should develop. That's what it means. Okay, so the next step is generating ideas for new products, and there's no end of sources. Sorry, there's no end of sources for new products. So some of the obvious ones are customers. Sometimes customers come up with new product ideas that the company takes advantage of. So I have a couple examples of this, of some companies that do seek out customer ideas for new products in a very formal way. And I know you're familiar with both these companies, that's why I kind of found these examples. Oops. Okay, so for example, Starbucks, the American coffee chain, if you go to their website and look under My Starbucks Idea, they just ask customers, what kind of products do you think that Starbucks should be selling? So customers have new ideas for coffee products and tea products and food products and technology products, delivery services, and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of an interesting website. So you might just want to, there's no video or anything, you might just check it out to see some of these customer ideas that Starbucks is trying to solicit from their customers. I mean, Starbucks is a very sophisticated company, and we could do worse than try to learn from how Starbucks does things. So another company that I know you're familiar with, another company that solicits its customers for new product ideas is Lego. You know, the little toy that kids play with. So in Moodle, I have a little link to this Lego site where Lego asks customers, do you have some ideas for new Lego products? And you can submit your ideas, and there's some kind of reward at the end of it. Okay, so certainly customers can be a good source of new product ideas for companies. And another good source of, another potential source of new product ideas is employees, as we would kind of expect. Employees can be a good source of new product ideas. And so we have a really good example of a very famous product that was invented by a couple of employees, and I know you are all familiar with the product. You might not know that it was an employee that, or a couple of employees that invented it, but it's a very famous product, and it's from 3M. 3M stands for Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, and they make the they make the Post-it notes. And these Post-it notes were invented by a couple of employees. And so I got a little video here posted in Moodle. I think it's 3 or 4 minutes about what inspired these employees to develop these Post-it note products. And Post-it notes, it's a fabulously successful product. They sell something like 100 billion Post-it notes per year, but half them are only about this big. But anyway, so it's kind of an interesting example of employees coming up with great product ideas. Okay, so another source of new product ideas is R&D or research, and some R&D can be done in-house. So a company might have its own R&D department, or there are consulting firms that can provide R&D services on a contract basis. And so the book makes mention of an American R&D firm that designs products for the consumer field. And the company's called IDEO. And IDEO did some work for Apple. And so there's a video, I've got a video posted about this IDEO company, and it's largely based on one of these researchers that worked with Apple. And it's about 20 minutes, sorry, it's 12 minutes, it's a 12-minute video, and it's from the American TV show 60 Minutes. It's from a couple years ago, but it is quite interesting to see this fellow. He's the fellow from IDEO. He's an engineer by trade, but it's interesting to listen to see how he sees the world, trying to come up with these new product ideas, and it's interesting with respect to Apple as well. Anyways, it's kind of a fun little video. Okay, so another source of new product ideas is competitors. Sometimes we just kind of look at what the competitor's doing and copy them. So I don't know if anybody recalls this from the news last year. It's I kind of have an example of somebody checking at the competition and kind of copying it. In this particular case, the copiers were, I mean, it was kind of an illegal form of copying, but anyways, you may have recalled from the news last year that a tourist in South Korea, a Canadian guy, was walking down the street one day looking to buy some coffee, and he saw some Tim Hortons coffee for sale in Korea. And apparently the style of this writing is very similar to the style on Tim Hortons, which of course is the big Canadian coffee firm. So Tim Hortons, Tim Hortons says, geez, we're very flattered that our coffee is known in Korea, and Tim Hortons does not have any franchises in Korea. They said they're very flattered that Koreans recognize this Canadian coffee brand. However, this actually constitutes trademark infringement, even though they're not using the literal name Tim Hortons. This name is substantially similar to Tim Hortons, and substantially similar can get them into a trademark infringement. And I think Tim Hortons was going to pursue that against this coffee company in South Korea. Anyways, but here's another good way, or here's another way to find new ideas for your products. Just check out what the competition's doing and emulate them. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so to speak. Okay, and then other sources of new product ideas. I mean, universities have researchers and inventors, small technology firms. There's all sorts of sources out there. Okay. Okay, so the third step in the new product development process is screening and evaluating your new product idea. So we've just gone through the new product idea generation stage. We've come up with a list of product candidates for the future, and now we kind of sort through the list and we evaluate them. We want to come up with a short list. So we can certainly engage in internal evaluation. We might have internal researchers. We can do internal feasibility studies on whether or not it's possible to produce the product. We can go back and see whether or not this new product idea sort of corroborates with our first step of our protocol. Or we can also use external people in this evaluation process. So we might develop some mock-ups of our product. We might come up with some drawings of the products or some sketches, some written descriptions of the product, and then we might go out and talk to potential customers and say, hey, do you think you have a need for this kind of product if we were to produce it? So we can actually talk to the real market to get some feedback from them as part of this screening and evaluation stage. Okay. Then the fourth step. So we come up with our set of ideas. We create a bit of a short list, get some feedback from our potential customers, and then we kind of have a shorter list of products, product ideas, and then we start conducting a business analysis. So we start costing, what's it going to cost to produce the product. We make some estimates of what we think the market's going to be, and can we produce a product and sell enough of it to make an attractive enough financial return. And then we're going to cross-reference the new product against our marketing department to see what kind of marketing strategy we need. We're going to see whether or not the product cannibalizes other products in our lineup. If you're a big cereal company like Kellogg's or General Mills, if you come up with a new brand of cereal, yes, people might want to buy it, but maybe the sales of your other cereals are going to decrease, and the new product is going to cannibalize the sales of the other products. So maybe we don't want to do that, or maybe we do. And then we want to think about what our distribution system is going to be. Can we distribute our new product through our existing distribution channels? So if Kellogg's comes up with a new brand of cereal, then yes, they could probably sell it through their existing distribution channel of food wholesalers and food retailers. But if Kellogg's comes up with a new product and the new product is a new bicycle, well, they're probably not going to sell their bicycle through food stores. And so they'd have to come up with a different distribution channel, different distribution system. Okay, then the fifth step in the new product development process is developing or creating some prototypes of the product. So Kellogg's, they manufacture a test batch of their cereal, and they come up with some new packaging with the new cereal on it, and then they perform tests. So Kellogg's determines what's the nutritional value of the cereal, or if it's a bicycle, they conduct safety tests. Okay, and then after then we start doing some market testing. So we actually take some of our prototype products and we put them in the real marketplace to see what consumers' response is to these products. And so some companies, they actually roll out these new products in certain communities around the country. Some communities that kind of represent the stereotypical Canadian consumer, and they put the product for sale in a number of stores in the community for a month or 2 months or 3 months, and they see how sales actually how they go. And if people buy lots of the product, then the company knows they've got a good product, and if people don't buy the product, then either they've got a bad product or they have some poor advertising. Anyway, so they also test drive some advertising and promotional strategies during this test market phase as well. And the book has an interesting stat here. It tells us that only 1/3 of new products pass the test marketing stage. So only 1/3. Okay, and then there's some other ways we can conduct test marketing rather than using real markets. Sometimes we can use simulated markets. And the book also mentions virtual test marketing. So if we want to test our product in a store with placement on the top shelf versus the bottom shelf versus the middle shelf versus the end of the aisle versus the middle of the aisle. You might have a kind of a fake store that has customers come in going shopping, and the company can evaluate how well the product sells in these different locations. So that's kind of like simulated test markets instead of in a real store. Okay, and then there's also, the book also mentions there's virtual reality test marketing. So you wear some of those goggles that allow you to kind of hypothetically walk through an imaginary store, and products are in different locations on the shelf, at different spots in the aisles, and the company can test, what the most attractive packaging is, and so on, using this virtual reality test marketing. So the virtual reality test marketing is going to be cheaper than doing a real test, but then a drawback is it's not a real market. So maybe real consumers would respond differently in the real world as opposed to in this virtual reality world. Okay, and then the final step in the new product development process is the commercialization phase. So if your product passes these other 6 steps, then the company decides to roll the product out. And sometimes when they roll products out, they roll them out on a geographical basis because it takes them a while to kind of ramp up production. And if you're rolling a new product out from, let's say, Western Canada to Eastern Canada, if you run into some problems in the marketing early on, well, you can correct those marketing problems before you get into your main market. And then we have the concept of a slotting fee and failure fee. So as we know, when we go shopping for food products or go into a department store, we know that there's a limited amount of shelf space. And if you want to get your new product on the shelf of a retailer, sometimes you have to rent the space to get your product on the shelf, and so that space rental is called a slotting fee. So manufacturers can pay retailers to put their product on the shelf. And if the retailer, if they're interested in the product but they're not really convinced that it's going to succeed, they might say to the manufacturer, "Okay, tell you what, we'll allow you to put your product on our shelf. However, if the product does not sell a certain volume, then you need to pay the retailer a failure fee, because the retailer knows that if they left the original product on the shelf there, they can make a certain amount of money. But if the product is a flop, then the retailer doesn't want to be the party bearing the loss. They can sometimes charge these failure fees to manufacturers." Okay, and then just the final slide here, it's just a summary of the 7 steps in the new product development process with different marketing actions, kind of marketing methods that correspond to these 7 steps. So new product development strategy stage, idea generation stage, and different marketing actions that the company can take at each of those 7 stages. Okay, so that's it for chapter 10, and we'll see you back in chapter 11.